So we're going to cover now the alternative crops to wheat and how we insure them. Most of you guys understand the wheat and barley insurance thing pretty well, I think, but there's a lot of stuff in peas that is a lot different from how the wheat and barley insurance works. So first off, what can we insure in Toole County? Most of the counties in the state will have similar types of crops here that you can insure. Dry peas pretty much everywhere, barley everywhere, mustard's available in some counties. Toole County happens to be one of those. Canola, oats, safflower is not available in our county, but it is in some close to us. Then camelina, which isn't a very popular crop, would be insurable if that's something you guys want to try. Any of these other crops we can insure with a written agreement. We just need to send that in before March 15th. So by the time you're watching this, it's too late to get insurance on those uninsurable crops for this crop year. If you think ahead to next year and you want to try, let's say, flax in Toole County, let us know before March 15th. We'll send in some paperwork. The government will come back with what kind of yield they'll let you start with on flax, and we can insure it that way. Annual forage crops are another thing we can't insure. That's a pretty big deal here now. A lot of willow creek winter wheat or pea barley hays going in. Those are just through an app at the FSA, not through us at this point. I know there's some trial programs being run now through multi-peril side of things to insure that, but we can't do it at the moment. So if you're going to grow an annual forage crop, one that you seed and then harvest that same year, then we can't insure that. Which of these would be an uninsurable crop through multi-peril? Oats seeded for hay, camelina, chickpeas, or mustard? The answer is oats seeded for hay. That is because that's an annual forage crop, right? We seeded it and are going to harvest it there that same year. It's not, doesn't come back like alfalfa will the next year. This is that crop rotation guideline sheet that you can get off our website. If you go to the crop insurance education tab, you can print this off, but it'll say 2017 on it now, I think, not 2016. But if you look here, this is the crop you're planning for this year. So let's say you're planning on growing lentils this year. We couldn't have had peas last year, so there has to be a 1-year break between peas, or lentils in the last 2 years to grow lentils or to insure lentils this year. So in other words, you need a 2-year break back to the same type of pulse on almost all of these, or a 1-year break from different pulses. So if you wanted to, you could actually go wheat, lentil, wheat, pea, and then just keep rolling with the pulse every other year, as long as it wasn't the same type of pulse. The other thing is on chickpeas, the only restriction on that is that you couldn't have seeded chickpeas anytime in the last 3 years. So if chickpeas was in this rotation, you couldn't have chickpeas again for 3 more crop years and insure it. The other pulses, 2 years back to the same type, 1 year separation from different types of pulses on there. The other thing that's different with these alternative crops from the wheat and barley that you're used to is there's different earliest seeding dates. So everybody pretty much knows wheat and barley is April 6th. If you seed before these dates, it's still insurable as long as the crop gets established. If for some reason it crusts in or it freezes and you need to reseed it, that's the important part of this date, is you lose your reseed. So you're going to lose your replant payment. Canola and mustard is all the way out to April 15th. That's because those are really frost susceptible crops. So if you seed before that and that $70 an acre canola seed frosts out, there's no coverage on our end of that. So wait till April 15th, seed canola and mustard. The peas are the earliest at March 25th. They tolerate frost well and they're early crops, right? So if you're going to start seeding, insurance-wise anyways, at the beginning or end of March, pick your peas, which is what we do anyways. Start after March 25th. Wait till April 6th for the wheat and barley, and then April 15th for the canola and mustard, which are pretty good agronomic guidelines regardless, I think. Then the latest seeding dates of these crops, if you seed after these dates, they start penalizing your coverage up to 20 days after the date. So May 31st is the last day to seed wheat and barley. May 15th for canola and mustard, so you only have a 30-day window in here to get this seeded between the earliest and the latest date. Smooth peas are May 15th. Because obviously you get later than that, you're going to have some yield problems the farther we get out. And then chickpeas and lentils are May 20th. Some more good news as far as alternative crops. That Richardson Seeds in Canada invested $120 million into their plant to upgrade it for more put through. So that opens up an even bigger market in Canada for us to sell this canola through going forward. So on to the pulse crops. Some of these crops, will actually guarantee you a profit depending on what area you're in, even in a bad year like this where the other commodity prices are down. So there's importance to understand where your land is at in the county. If you've never grown, let's say, chickpeas before, your starting yield, which is your T yield for the county, is drastically different if you're by Shelby, let's say, than it is by the Sweetgrass Hills. Where do they get these yields? Some counties, the whole county is one big map area, like Pend Oreille County and Glacier all have the same yield no matter where you seed these crops. In Toole, in Liberty counties or Hill County, there's map areas set up. You can see where the blue up here is at. That's map area 5. That's the best in the county. The Sweetgrass Hills would be right around in here. Area 3 is where our farm is. So here's Wendy's farm ground. And then this is area 4 over here in the red. Your starting yield, if your land is in area 5, or your starting guarantee for, let's say, large caboolies in the county, would be $340 an acre. If you went down the road 10 miles to where our farm is at, because we start with a lower yield, our guarantee is only $207 an acre. So you're looking at a difference of over $100 an acre just because of where your land is. That is why in area 5 or area 4 here, you're seeing a huge number of chickpeas and lentils going in because the crop insurance guarantee is so high that it makes it almost impossible to lose money on these crops. Area 3, like we're doing small kabuli chickpeas, you can see the difference for us between the smalls and the larges isn't very much. We're looking at about $50 an acre, but it's going to cost us at least $30 more to seed these things. If you're in the better map area, we're looking at $80 an acre difference. So at this point, if you can do the larges or get a contract on larges, it makes a lot more sense to do large kaboolies than smalls. So no matter what crop you're planting, make sure you understand, if you've never grown it before, what map area that your land is in is the moral of this. So how do peas and lentils work if you have a quality adjustment? That's the other thing we had a big question on is, well, what if we grow all these lentils? It looks like it's going to guarantee us back here $276 an acre for lentils. Well, what if they end up going number 2s or worse and they dock us a bunch on the price? Well, the cool thing on the crop insurance is they take whatever you get for the number 2 price at the elevator, or what the price is at that point when the adjuster calls, divide it into what you should have got for number 1s. So in our example, we're going to say US number 1 lentils are worth 25 cents a pound. Number 3s, because they went 3s, are only worth 15 cents a pound. In our example here, we harvested 10,000 bushels of lentils. The crop insurance will adjust your production down by dividing the 3s into the 1s. So we got 15 cents a pound because they're 3s. Had they been US number 1s, they would have been 25. So they're only going to count 60% of your production for your claim. So instead of counting 10,000 bushels against us for the claim, they're going to count 6,000 bushels is all. So basically, you should still end up at that mid $200 an acre range between the production you have to sell and the insurance, because they're going to reduce your bushels down if you have quality issues. This is one of the only crops that works this way. All you guys that have had falling number problems on wheat or protein issues on wheat, you know the crop insurance doesn't compensate you quite step for step for that. But these peas and lentils should work out a lot closer that way. The other thing that's really popular on peas and lentils is enterprise units. It results in a huge reduction in premium on these crops. But if you elect these enterprise units, it'll throw all the types of peas together into one pot before a loss is paid out. So as long as you understand this part, if you don't get a loss payment, you probably did fine as a whole anyways on the farm. But if you didn't understand this, you'd assume that the smooth peas would still be separate from the lentils. What can happen is, if you do enterprise units, your poor pea crop and your good lentil crop might offset each other in your loss payment scenario. So let's say, for example, you had an okay lentil crop. When they did your loss adjustment, it was $40,000 above what your guarantee is. The peas end up being $50,000 into a loss. So your total loss payment for this enterprise unit would be your $50,000 loss minus your $40,000 gain on the lentils. So you only realize the $10,000 an acre loss payment since it was an enterprise units, where it would have been $50,000 in optional. Now, why would I do this? It's because of the huge difference in the premium. So if you look at 75% here, this is comparing lentils. This is in Teton County, but these are all going to be similar. So lentils at 75% in Teton County would guarantee you $163 an acre. If it's in enterprise units, it'd be $11 an acre. If you had that in optional units, it's going to be $30 an acre. Where is this a no-brainer? Obviously, to qualify for enterprise units, all you have to have is 20 or more acres of any P type in 2 different sections. So let's say, for example, you're going to seed 80 acres of lentils here. If that's all you did was seed this one section, you wouldn't qualify for enterprise units, so you'd be stuck paying that higher premium amount. If you go down the road or across the section line and seed 20 more acres in a different section, all of a sudden your premium goes from $30 an acre in optional down to about $11 an acre at enterprise. So if you're going to seed a whole section of lentils and that's all you're going to seed on the farm, go down the road, seed 20 acres somewhere else and get that big discount. It's going to save you nearly $20 an acre for basically the same coverage. Where's the big risk in enterprise units? That'd be if you seeded the whole farm. Let's say you got 6 sections seeded to pulse crops. That's going to throw them all together into one pot before your claim can be paid, right? So most guys do enterprise units, even if they're doing a fair number of acres, because there's a huge premium discount, and then they'll put some hail insurance on with that savings. To qualify for these enterprise units, there has to be 20 or more acres in 2 different sections of a pulse crop. Or you could have 80 acres, let's say, in this one section, 10 in section 3, and 10 in section 1, so that these 2 aggregate together into 20 or more. So true or false, if I elect enterprise units, all my P types, lentils, chickpeas, smooth peas, etc. will be thrown together into one pot before the claim's paid out. 1 true, 2 false, or 3 I don't care. The answer is true. All of your P types are going to be combined in one unit. So if you're going to do lentils, chickpeas, and smooth peas all in your operation, just understand those are all going to get thrown into one pot. So chickpeas are the quirkiest crop as far as specific rules on how they would be insurable. So to follow along here, only Ascochyta resistant varieties are insurable, so they have to be moderately resistant or better, which there's a list of varieties in the crop insurance standards here that actually will tell you which ones are approved right off the bat for them. Seed must be treated with recommended fungicides to prevent Ascochyta blight, Pythium, or any other seed-borne diseases. So the big one is a lot of those seed treats aren't registered for Ascochyta blight. So make sure that the stuff that you're having these chickpeas seeded with is labeled for Ascochyta. Pretty much all the rest of it, the Pythium and the other seed-borne diseases, are covered on those other treats, but some of that, a lot of them won't be covered for Ascochyta. There's a product called Mirtec that you can add into the other seed treats that will add that Ascochyta control for you. Also, if you're going to plant your own seed or bin run seed, coverage is available only if the seed's been tested by a laboratory for seed-borne Ascochyta blight with less, and it has to come back at less than 0.3% incident of that. So basically, if you're going to seed your own seed, make sure you get that tested before you put it in the ground, or you may not have coverage on your chickpeas on the crop insurance end. If you seed your own seed, then there's a loss, and they go back to verify this, and you didn't have this test done. Well, first off, it'd be uninsurable. Or they'll send a test in if you have some of that seed left in the bin, and if it comes back higher than 0.3%, you're in trouble as well. So using your own seed, really important to get a seed test to make sure you come back at less than this 0.3% Ascochyta blight. Also, if damage occurs in the field, you have to provide proof that you use some sort of chemical to try and control the problem, or that's an uninsurable cause of loss. Ascochyta, 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 right? That's the big thing here. So make sure that you use a fungicide seed treat that works for Ascochyta, that if you use your own seed, you get it tested and it comes back under their tolerance, and then also that if any damage has occurred in the field that you tried to spray it. These are the approved large Kabuli or the high dollar Kabuli varieties. Dwelly, Dillon, Sierras. This year they added Sawyers and Orions. That's a big one. We did a lot of written agreements last year or some to get those insured. Now they're just insurable in 2017. Troy, Xena, or Yumas. If your variety is not listed on this list, they're going to be insured as small Kabulis unless otherwise designated by a written agreement. So if you're seeding a variety that's not on this list and you're sure they're larges, make sure you come talk to us and we'll send a written agreement off to the office and see if we can get those insured as large. Because your guarantee on the larges, which I'll get back to here, is a lot higher than the smalls, right? So if we look at our large Kabuli guarantee in Area 5, it's $340. If we don't get your variety approved or it's not on that list, you're going to have the small Kabuli guarantee, which would just be the $266. Another thing that's confusing is that cover crops must be terminated 90 days prior to planting to be insurable. So the thing where you'll run into this on a lot with would be seeding cover crop throughout the year, spraying it out, let's say the end of July or 1st of August, and seeding winter wheat the 1st of September. We wouldn't have 90 days prior to planting when that cover crop is terminated. If you want to seed it sooner than that, you just have to get a statement from 2 ag experts saying that your management practice won't adversely affect the yields or quality of the insured crop. So we just need a statement from 2 ag experts like your extension agent or an NRCS person, 2 of them, saying that it's okay that you did that. To be covered as summer fallow, it must be terminated 1 year prior to planting. We did get a little clarification on that if you spray it out by June 15th and then wait all the way till the next spring and seed it to a spring crop, it'll be considered summer fallow. Before they told us it had to be a full 12 months, which was impossible, right? That meant the cover crop was always going to be recropped. Now, if you seed that cover crop April 1st, let it grow till June 15th and spray it out on that date or before that date, it'll be summer fallow as long as you wait all the way to the next spring to seed it. You couldn't seed winter wheat, you'd have to seed a spring crop on there. The other big thing is rotation restrictions apply to these cover crops as well. So if you're going to seed peas in your cover crop, that's going to restrict you from being able to do peas for 2 more years in that field as a cash crop. So don't put things in your cover crop that you want to be able to seed the next couple of years with as a cash crop. Really don't ever put chickpeas in there because that's going to put you 3 years out to those always. The next thing is we always try and recap the revenue protection portion of this program. So what happens with revenue protection if the price goes down at harvest? Revenue protection is part of the crop insurance program that's going to use a futures market to set a base price for you. So on spring wheat, let's say it's $5.66 a bushel right now. In August, they're going to average that futures market again, and they're going to come up with another price that shows us how much the market changed from the time you were seeding till you harvested. So we're going to say right now, in the spring, the base price for wheat is $10 a bushel. You had a 28 bushel guarantee. So starting out, your guarantee on spring wheat here was $280 an acre. We're going to say you harvested 32 bushels an acre. So normally, if you were in yield protection or the old crop insurance program, we are already above what our bushel guarantee was and we wouldn't have a loss payment. But what happened, and this is what's been happening in the last several years, is the grain market dropped a bunch from $10 a bushel, we're going to say down to $5 from the time we were seeding when our base price was set until they set the harvest price at $5. So the harvest price for the insurance is $5 a bushel. The 32 bushels you cut now is only worth $5 a bushel on the insurance. So your crop insurance is going to value that at only $160 an acre, even though we cut more bushels than our initial guarantee. So you would end up with a $120 acre loss payment because your guarantee will never drop below this $280 it starts at. Your crop, even though you had 32 bushels, is only valued at $160 because the price dropped. So you end up with this $120 an acre. So really, really important to always take revenue protection if it's available on your crops because there can be huge differences in the loss payment for the little bit of extra premium it costs. So that's what happens when it goes down. If the price goes down, you can harvest more bushels than what we initially thought for your guarantee and still realize a loss payment because the bushels are valued at less. So what happens when the price goes up at harvest, which is the more likely scenario now, we hope. So we're going to say we're starting at $5 a bushel for this wheat, the 28 bushel guarantee. So we have $140 an acre starting guarantee. In this scenario, we had a drought and we only harvested 10 bushels, but in the meantime, the price of wheat increased to $10. So that'd be the most this could pay out extra. We could pay double what we started. First thing that happens after they figure this harvest price then at $10 is they increase your guarantee. So remember we were only at $140 starting out here. Now our guarantee increases to $10 a bushel times our 28 bushel guarantee. So now we have $280 an acre of coverage. So we paid the same premium, but our coverage doubled. We have 10 bushels of production That 10 bushels is valued at $10 a bushel for the claim, so $100 of production off of there. We would receive a loss payment of our new $280 an acre guarantee minus the $100 we harvested, or $180 an acre loss payment. Plus, we still have the 10 bushels to sell at the elevator, hopefully for close to that 10 bucks, right? So we actually realized a larger loss payment than what our initial guarantee was here, because our guarantee increased with the price, and we still have 10 bushels to sell on top of that. So huge deal, being in the revenue protection part as far as opportunity missed in a drought too if the price increases. What are the base prices for all these crops for 2017? The stuff we're mostly worried about are these conventional prices. Conventional winter wheat was $4.74. That was set last fall. Obviously that price is pretty depressed. Spring wheat's $5.66, so it's a little better. And Durham has a premium price above spring wheat, so you're looking at a base price of $6.39 for that. Canola is 18 cents, which is about $8.50 a bushel, I think, and then barley set at $3.40 a bushel. Some things to avoid problems on your crop insurance: all the grain must be contracted and settled in the correct entity. If you're operating 3 corporations or 3 different entities anyways, don't settle all the grain in one name and then disperse checks out of it. Make sure when the settlements are done at the elevator, it's done in the correct name, or it can cause some big problems if we have a review. Incorrect insured versus operator. Make sure that if you were operating as a trust, let's say, or an estate that's now been settled out into a trust, let us know if that happens mid-year or at these deadlines, because if we're not matching the name that the FSA is operating you under with the insurance, basically you might be ineligible for a loss payment. So as a recap, important to know what your county average yield is for your area if you're going to do a new crop. Remember that some of these counties have different yields depending on where you're seeding this crop at in the county. Understand all the requirements of the crop insurance that you're insuring, especially on the pulses. Chickpeas have a lot of rules that you need to understand. We're in the boom market for some of these pulse crops, and they may actually guarantee you a profit on the crop insurance side. Enterprise units are big savings, but it's important to understand how they work. We're going to get into the malt barley portion of this presentation now. I'm going to skip through most of this because we'll go through this individually with you guys if you got contracts. Since the contracts have been cut so much, we're not going to focus as much on this. But the big thing to understand is if you get a contract, you can insure barley as malt now, where before in the past you had to prove that you raised and sold malt barley effectively in order to be able to insure it going forward. There's true optional units available in 2017, but I think they'll be too expensive for most of you on the crop insurance end. The good news with the new malt endorsement is that the premium dropped 23% if you're in enterprise units, so $887 for comparable coverage on the old option B to $722 for the same if you put everything in enterprise. The bad news is if you do optional units, it's exceptionally more expensive. So optional malt units are available now in 2017, true optional units, so you could split each unit up into a separate payment on malt quality and on yield loss. Probably too expensive to insure for most of us, and this is why. So if you look at like the 75% level, if you do enterprise units with your malt contract at $5 or $5.50 that we used here, it'd be $7.22 in enterprise units and almost $19 in optional. So most people aren't going to pay the 19 bucks an acre. This is where we're going to take a break and go to the next segment of our presentation. We'll go through how much you're going to get disaster money predicted for the 2016 crop year, which you'll get in the fall of 2017 here, and then what we're looking at going forward as well. So we'll start the next segment here in just a second.